Hello all. I thought I'd go over the materials that I use. I tend to repeat this a lot in my demo videos, and so I thought it best just to have one video to point people to. The supplies that I use to paint. Let me move this here. Start with the paper. I've been painting on paper, but what you need to know about it is it's a heavier paper, like watercolor, Bristol. This I think was watercolor, and then I gessoed over it. This is just a Bristol paper sketchbook. You can see it's kind of heavy. This is my favorite size. I think it's what, 12 by 12, something like that. Anyway. Anywhooser, the gesso that I use is this right now. If you're just wanting the white, this Liquitex works really well. And I use an old brush to do it with. These are a couple that I use on ones this size. So if you're not using a canvas, which is also needs to be gessoed, I'm using the paper right now. Then this is the palette that I use. It is a parallel palette. It has, I don't know if you can tell, but the paint are in these indented trays. And then it has a cover that goes over it. I bought this many years ago. I don't think they're still available. This is what I like to use right now. It's convenient because I can put the cover on it, stick it in the fridge, and my paint stay wet longer, whether I'm using acrylics or oils, but I'm using oils right now. I prefer a glass palette with oils. So if you can get a piece of glass out of a inexpensive frame that you can pick up at a discount store, I put a neutral color pastel paper underneath it so it was not stark white to help give me that middle ground. And then when I clean it off, this is just a razor blade scraper. I can just scrape the paint off with this. So this is really handy. The paint that I use a variety of brands. I have, well, here, I'll just leave this here. I have Gamblin, I have Sennelier, I have Daler Rowney. I've collected different ones over the years, and when I go to put the color in my paint, I will look at the color first because I'm pretty happy with any of the paints that I've kept. Liquitex. But right now, when I go and buy paint, I will buy this Gamblin. Let me get this over here. I'll buy this. And then the paints go in here, in this tray, it goes in here. But they send these with a paint panel that's mounted, and there's less waste that way. I like the paints, the quality's good. I haven't had any issues with it whatsoever. So if I were to buy a set of paints right now, I would get the 1980 oil color from Gamblin. It was about $45, I think, on Dick Blick. I usually go to Jackson's, Dick Blick, Amazon, Jerry's Artorama is another one. But the colors that I use titanium white, which is what goes in here, which I need to fill that up when I go to paint some more. Yellow ochre, which is that. A cadmium yellow hue. This is yellow hue, pale hue on that one. Just don't want to get too pale because then you don't have much tinting strength. This is Gamblin's cadmium yellow light. That would work fine. And then for the red, I use cadmium red hue, which is that one. It's about to run out, so I've got a Utrecht tube here to replace it. And then this is alizarin crimson. Again, I didn't use it much the last time I cleaned my palette, so I didn't fill any more in there, but I've got the tubes right here to do it if I want to. Then this is dioxazine purple, and the tube I use is a Grumbacher. It is a very, very deep purple and can also be used as a black or very dark value. A little bit of it goes a long way, but this makes a great dark color. Ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, which is that reddish, color right here. And then burnt umber, which is the dark brown. And then I use a black. I prefer Mars black when possible, but right now I've just got ivory black in there. So those are the colors I use, the palette, the surface. Brushes, as I said, these I use primarily for gesso because of the size, and they're I don't know, they've got to be probably 30 years old. I don't think, this one's a Pro White Creative Mark. I don't think they're even in business anymore. This is Princeton Art and Brush Company, a Filbert 12. Again, I don't think these companies are even in business anymore. If you're using it just for gesso, you can even just use like a house paint brush. If that works. Just use what you have. Don't worry too much about just whatever it takes to get a nice smooth surface on it. Then recently I got these Winsor & Newton Hog Flat Oil Synthetic Hog. I really, really like these. This is a 2 flat. I tend to kind of scrub when I'm first putting down my marks, where things are going to be placed. So I started using this one, so I've just kept using this one because, as you can see, it's very worn down. When this one finally gives way, I'll probably just dig another one out of my stash of whatever brand and use it the same way. I don't want to use the other one of this. This one is a 1, this one is a 2, but they're very, very close in diameter. But these are Winsor & Newton. I use those. This is a Rosemary & Co. Long Filbert. It's a 278. But I really like these. They're kind of pricey. These come from England and you have to pay a little more for them, plus the weight to get them. I'm in the US, I'm in Kansas. But I've had these for many years and they've held up really well. But I bought a full set of these, of plein air set. Sometimes the cheap ones are the best ones for the job. The ones for the details I've been using are just generic brand. This one is Royal & Langnickel, which you can just pick up at Walmart. You can get a small set for under $10 and it'll do the job. It does not have a long handle, so if that matters to you, because if I'm painting on my canvas, I like to hold the brush out at the end and not up here. But this cheap set was less than, I don't know, it was maybe $8. And then I like to have a pencil because sometimes you just, if you need something to have a pencil handy, so in case you need to make marks. Then medium, I don't use a lot of different mediums. I prefer my oils to stay wet as long as possible so that I can work them. This is walnut oil by M. Graham. One bottle of this will last you a long time. It looks like it's about right there. And I've had this for, I don't know, probably a couple of years. But you put this into a little cup, just a small amount, just a few tablespoons, and dip your paintbrush in it when you get to that layer where you want it to stay wet longer. But these little metal cups are really handy. They're, I think, like $12 for a couple of them, but they clip onto your easel also, or I'm sorry, onto your palette, especially if you have a wooden palette. Clip that on there. And then I also use mineral spirits. I don't use anything fancy, or I probably should be using something like Gamsol that is healthier to be around. This does have an odor, even though it's called odorless mineral spirits. I've been using it. I may change at some point, but this is the same thing. It comes in this, I put it in this little metal bucket and it seals shut. And then it won't spill. If you don't have to use something like this, I like to use it because it keeps it covered. If you use it in a jar, I don't know if you can tell, but the top part of where this mineral spirits is at is almost clear, and the paint settles to the bottom, so you can reuse the mineral spirits over and over again. So like this I will pour into here when I need to. I can pour this out into another jar, pour this clean into here, and just keep doing that, and it'll last a long time. For rags and things like that, oh, I forgot about this. This is a solvent-free gel that you get with your gambling set if you buy that. I have a few tubes of it. I don't use it a lot, but I've seen people really talk about its positive aspects. I want to try more of this. It is supposed to make it a transparent. You can use it when you do glazes on paintings, but you might try something like that. And this is healthier than this. Oh, let's see what else. Oh, rags. I just use a torn up old towel. Some people buy the blue shop towels you can get. I was buying those for a while, but then I was going through so many of them, and I had old towels and things that needed to be used, so I just went with it. So now that's what I use. Palette knife. This is my favorite shape of one to use. If it has to have a number, it's a 5. But you can see the shape there. It's just a metal. I prefer metal over plastic. Get yourself something like that. Usually you can get these in sets fairly inexpensively. Let's see, what else? I think gloves. I've been painting wearing gloves for safety reasons, just to keep the paint from getting on my skin. If you use something like this, where they're all brand new paints, and you know they're up to safety standards, it's not as important to wear gloves. But I have some old paints from like 20, 30 years ago that I still use, and I don't really pay attention to which one I'm grabbing, so I'm not sure of their safety measures in each tube. This is another brand I buy, Williamsburg. These are wonderful. So that's it. That's the supplies I use. For reference images, I have an iPad here. that I put things on. And I have a stand I just clip it on to, and it holds it upright so I can see it while I'm working. And the stand I have it on can be moved around. It's not and this isn't something that's necessary. That's just something a little extra I have. And usually if you want something like that, you can find it fairly inexpensive, like $10–15. But I find it very useful just to keep my iPad up off my desk, if nothing else. One other thing, on the paper, you'll see I use this on the flat sheets, or if they're in a sketchbook. It's just a painter's tape. You can buy some actual artist tape, and it's a little heavier, but this works fine for me right now. But I use it to keep the paper nice and tight, and it creates a nice clean border on there when you pull it off. Okay, that's it. Thank you for listening. I hope that helps somewhat. If you have any questions at all, just put them in comments below and I will get back to you. So until the next time, take care and be safe.